Hi there VC, Steve Whitty here, time for another video, and this one is about the Leeds Meet Up that happened last Saturday, 14th of June. Been planned for about a month or so. Great time was had by everyone. I think I'll give the mentions out before I go any further. So John, 6-inch pianist; Gav, Axeman spins; Headley, another fat bearded man talking about records; Rob Walker, let the music play; David Atkinson, music and more; Ian, ranking the obscure; Nick's vinyl butty; Mike's vinyl vinyl spiral, I think. I'll read my writing. And a guy who everyone else knew, where I never knew and never got his name, Me Digger You Viewer. So it was a good meet-up. Everyone had a great time. Headley mentioned in his video, I watched the beginning of it, that I turned 60 and I had on 12th last Thursday. So I was making a bit of a weekend of it, just enjoy myself. I had some money as a gift from work, so I had a bit more than normal to spend. I met up with John and Gav first at New Stitch Station. We decided to have breakfast at the Weatherspoons. And while in there, John says, "Well, I've got some VCLT for you both." And I said, "Funny enough, John, I've got a record that you might be interested in." But John handed over this. Now, this is Popo Vu, Hosanna Mantra. This is Krautrock prog. Popo Vu. I don't always wear the name. I have got an album of their record of theirs without cover, one of those. This came out 72. This is not an original copy. This is an American reissue from 1981. Now, the sound of this record is more acoustic, almost akin to classical music. In fact, the previous albums were more electronic. And so, yeah, is that better? That's it. You can see my face. So, yeah. And it just so happens that the two of their albums, including this, was due to be reissued in August. So that's saved me a few pennies. I can cancel I've cancelled the pre-order on Amazon. We get up to Leeds. We caught the coach from Digbeth into Leeds Bus and Coach Station, Dye Street, and the Market Hall, Kirk Leeds Hall, where the record fair is held, is literally just a 5-minute walk away. And so we made our way in there, and gradually we started seeing everybody, and sort of started mooching around to see what to buy. Now, if you've never been to the Leeds Fair, it's held every second Saturday of the month, and it's a big fair. It's bigger than you look when you go in. You think, oh, it's only just a sort of rectangular tables, but there's another unit right into the food hall area as well. Massive. It's well worth going. It's a place I want to go again. However, I was flicking through and I initially weren't feeling it. I thought, God, I'm here and I don't see anything I want to buy. So as soon as I walked in, I want to go, oh, I love that, I love that. First thing I picked up is Peter Green, at the end of the game. This was his solo album he released 1 month after leaving Fleetwood Mac. Came out in 1970. Slated by the critics when it came out. Basically, this album's just a lot of guitar solos. If you're into that sort of thing, I think you'd really like it. This is a German reissue, and I've got a couple of albums on this original rock classics series. It just so happens, after I brought this, I come across an original which was going for 50 quid. I paid a tenner for this. It's sort of a no-brainer. Because going back to Peter Green, because the reaction was so negative, and you sort of drifting out of music, he become an acid casualty. He'd had this thing about feeling guilty about having money, and he did get institutionalized at one point because he'd gone to his accountant with a gun because he'd kept sending him royalty checks. ultimately he wouldn't make another solo album until 1979, which is a shame. But yeah, I was pleased to find this. Unexpected find, I would say. Then a couple more vendors down, I came across a couple of albums. The first one of which is Girls' School Demolition, their debut album. This is an album I don't see that often. Released on the Bronze label, came out in 1980. Sort of tagged in with the new wave of British heavy metal. They'd got patronage from Motorhead. They'd supported in, I think it was 79. Them and Saxon supported Motorhead. And it's a wonderful album. Great debut album. It's a sort of statement of intent. You got the title track, well, you got Demolition Boys. Race with the Devil's a single they had. Emergency was another single they had. That's how I got to know 'em. Take It All Away, Nothing to Lose. Good, high-powered octane rock, metal. It showed that the girls could do it as good as the boys as well. And that's still going today. Yeah, so I was happy to pick that up. And then I also come across this, and this is something I've come across about reading on prog. This is Paladin, their self-titled debut. I think it came out in 1971 on the Bronze label. This is sort of standard prog fare, keyboards, guitar. Nothing that makes it stand out for anything else, but it's good. I enjoyed listening to it. One of the members of the band, a guy called Pete Solly, actually, after the band split up after the second album, went on to become a writer and producer. And one of the acts he produced was Motorhead. So yeah, really good record. Don't really know too much about the band, but yeah, it's a nice sounding record. I'd be intrigued to find out what the second album sounds like. Moved on to the other hall, sort of mooching round. I came across in one vendor, he had sort of like prog, crack rock in a box. I come across this. This is Can Soon Over Baluba. I think is how you pronounce it. One of the Spoon reissues. Apologies for the glare there. This is the first album, 74, so this is the first album after Damo Suzuki left, from following his conversion to being a Jehovah's Witness. I like Can. I do enjoy listening to this. It's a good album, a good band. Yeah, for 15 quid, I wasn't going to complain. So yeah, I'm just happy to have that. So it adds to the Can collection. Probably my biggest bargain of the day. The actual fair itself had a lot of dealers dealing with sealed new records. And I know some of the guys were lucky enough to pick up British Sea Power, Do You Like Rock Music? I looked in a box full of new stuff, and I come across this. This is Manic Street Preachers, Forever Delayed. It originally came out in 2001, but this is the 2022 reissue, and this sort of envisages it. When Nicky Wire thought about the album originally, he wanted it as two sort of separate records, but it never peaked at. Sort of felt panned out, sort of ended up that way, so to speak. The reissue gave it a chance to be remixed. Some of the tracks to be remixed. One of them being "Why So Sad," which was the lead single off the album. There's a good remix on there. So you've got two records. One's called "Down to the River," and one's called "Solidarity." So, Solidarity as more of some of the covers some of the B-sides that came out. So they do a cover of "We Are All Bourgeois Now." Found that song, I think, was the #1 single for them. It's just My Guernica, Masses Against the Classes. Now that, I think that was the #1 single, sorry. Let Robes and Sing. intravenous agnostic. It's actually so. I haven't listened to this album. I had it on CD in years, and I've forgotten how good it was. When it came out, the sales were sort of disappointing. That was partly because they'd had two really good classic albums that come out beforehand, and it was always going to tail off. But to me, it was the bargain. I picked up the last copy. That was going. There was, as I said, there were tons of Seal records. You could go up there and nab yourself some bargains just on the Seal records. Now, before we left the record fair, well, actually on our way up here, Gavin had set the challenge to me and John, pick up a 12-inch. And it was like, I've almost forgotten. So there was a cheap box going, and I picked up, remember, Sadness Part 1. This was the #1 single. 1990, or was it 1991? It made one of the 2 years. I've forgotten how good it was, actually. So I'm happy to have it. A couple of quid, did the job. Well, we decamped to the pub, had a few beers. Weather was good. Yeah, I couldn't complain about the weather, but yeah, the weather was good. And then from there, we decided to do what we normally do, is we go to Crash Records. Now, Crash Records is in a shop called Wall of Sound. It's underneath. And I've been there before, and I've been happy there before. However, the problem with Crash is it's quite a small unit. And when you got there were a load of records piled up on top of the bins, and you and if you wanted to get to the bin, you had to move the records, and it was way too high, and push them to one side. But then the guy who owns it was coming out. Oh, my system. This is all my system. Well, I don't know what sort of system is it when your customers can't get at the records. So I was a little disappointed. Maybe a lack of judgment in my part. When it came to the record I brought. AC/DC blow up your video. Nothing wrong in that, you say. It just so happened when I played it and was about to log it on Discogs, I realised I'd already got a copy. However, it's a better copy than the one I've got. So the old copy's gonna go to Oxfam. So stay tuned to next week's Cool Records video. We couldn't get out of Crash quick enough, to be honest. So we moved on to Relics Record. I had to remember where we went to. And this is about 5 o'clock, so we didn't have much time left. So we went in. I had a look in these sort of like cheap bins. And I come across some records. I thought, these were like £10 each. INXX. This is a band that was at their peak of the powers. I think on the back of this tour, the headline Wembley Stadium, which was, I think, Live Baby Live, I think was the album recorded from there. You've got Suicide Blonde, Disappear, By My Side, Bitter Tears. Now, those are the singles off the album. As I said, this just sounds great. Produced by Chris Thomas, came out in 1990. Absolutely wonderful record. Absolutely wonderful album. Don't think they ever hit that peak again. And then I picked up Rolling Stones, Steel Wheels from 1989. This is where the album where they decided we'd be better off writing just on the rock basis. I think the 80s was a fraught relationship between Keith Richards and Mick Jagger. And I think this was sort of like in the last attempt to, see if the Stones still could act as a band. And unfortunately they did. The opening single, Mixed Emotions, I think it's just a great song. It didn't do very well in the UK. Did well in the States. As I say, it went back to what they did best, rock and roll. The tour was the biggest tour they undertook. This would be the last album that Bill Wyman featured on. He would leave after the tour. But happy to pick this up. It's one of the albums that I'd been meaning to pick up, so to see that. And then an album I used to have, but I picked up again. Oh, again, excuse the glare. This is Headstone, The Best of UFO. This came out in 1983 after the band initially had split up. And what I liked about this comp, it's not all UFO. They decided to use that, to put on bands where members had been past members of before they joined or moved on to after they left the band. So you got Whitesnake, Fully Loving, and that was marking that Bernie Marsden was a guitarist at one point, which was quite big of them because it wasn't the best of relationships. Reading Bernie Marsden's autobiography, it wasn't a period that he much enjoyed. Then you've got Scorpions for Michael Schenker. That's where UFO had sort of pinched Michael Schenker from. And then you've got Lone Star, where Paul Chapman was guitarist at one point before he joined UFO. Then Michael Schenker Group, Armed and Ready, after he left UFO. Wild Horses, because Neil Carter joined UFO from Wild Horses. And then, to top it all, you've got a very good live side for live at the Hammersmith Odeon. They initially split up after that. I think Phil Mogg had a bit of a breakdown and decided to call time on the band. They'd reformed in about a couple of years later. But this is a really good comp, if only just for that live side. Nice to have a live album of the concert. And then VC, I make the mistake after paying for those. Oh, there's a new inbox. And I went in, picked up, and saw a record, and I thought, this is coming home with me. Grand Prix by Teenage Fan Club. I think it's their third, maybe the fourth album. Released on Creation in 1995. I loved the song Sparky's Dream. It was all over. It was theme tune for quite a few TV series. Just fantastic power pop, indie power pop. This is the 2021 reissue. But I saw that and I thought, oh, I've got to have that. So my wallet did take a bit of a hammering on Saturday, but it's well worth it. And made our way to the bus station after Greg's, and made our way home. I want to thank Gavin because Gavin kept me and John fed with sweets during the journey up and down. He timed the gaps meticulously, so it kept us going. No sugar rush. So there you go, VC. I enjoyed that day. It was great seeing everybody. It was just the good weather. It was just good vibes. It's always good company. We have lots of laughs, a few beers, and I think we might try and do Stoke, if only just to pay pilgrimage to the new Lemmy statue. So there you go, VC. That's what I got up to on Saturday. And if you like what you see, thumbs up, thumb down. Love the interaction. Feel free to leave a comment. I will get back to you. So whatever you do, VC, if you're in the UK, enjoy the sunshine. Phew, watch a scorcher. And whatever you do, take care of yourselves. Keep spinning. And more importantly, keep on smiling.